Hello, 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 and welcome to the Relationship Show with Diane Valiquette, your relationship recovery coach. And this week we're going to be covering the positions you play or you find yourself playing in the relationships and go more into what the blueprint is about and how it came to be in your life. So welcome back, Diane Valiquette, to the Relationship Show, and take the floor.
Rebecca's going to put up the chart that I wanted to put up so that I can really explain to you what positions and how the positions are played, and also where do you go when you've decided kind of to leave and how that happens. So Rebecca, can you put that up, please? Okay. So I really want to explain how relationships end up kind of in a place where people stay in until which time they decide that they're that unhappy and something needs to change. And so what occurs is, remember we talked about the red flags, we talked about the connection and the sexual energy and the infatuation, and then we went into unconscious patterns. Okay, so unconscious patterns are patterns that you use in order to get love, so you think. And also the patterns that you use are either exactly the same as the parent that you're running the blueprint from, and then they're called behaviors. So you go into a behavior. So some people, in order to get what they want, they chose to withdraw and be kind of a victim of their circumstances. There are people who are rescuers, so they're saying yes when they mean no, but they never think of themselves. They rescue, they think of everybody else but themselves. And then at some point they get kind of being victims of their circumstances that they've created. And then they either get angry or they get depressed, right? So we all play the three positions, but we predominantly play one and then secondarily the other. And it's usually the breakup happens when you're playing the third position that you actually don't usually play. And that third position brings you into a place of something is really, really wrong if I'm behaving this way. So I really want to stress that in breakups, in divorces, separation, breakdown of relationships, they occur because we recycle the same issues over and over. We become distant, we become unhappy. And again, I'm going to stress how we build blocks, right? So, the first red flag in 1987, he did this, she did this, and there's one brick, and then there's bricks and bricks and bricks created through the years. And then we get really tired of playing in this triad and recycling the same issues. And I call it like almost our soul wants to move across and live in conscious choice, aliveness, closeness, accepting, happy, and whole. But you have to be accepting, happy, and whole within yourself, right? And so really understand these negative positions, so I call them, the victim, villain, hero, and understand how you got to play these positions, why you go into those positions, and what the outcome of your behavior that causes you to go into these positions, right? And so in the 12-week workshop that I do in, divorce recovery and understanding relationships and understanding why we do the things we do, I really have to hone it back to when you were a kid. Did you become the over-responsible rescuer in order to feel love? Or did you become, the victim and saying this is not fair and everybody's, loving everybody else but me, and, be a very big victim of whatever was happening? Or do you become, angry and project? So, the projectors are the ones that are always mad, and they, they're the bullies, or they're it's hard to say, I have to use a bad word. So being a villain and a projector is that everybody else is wrong but you're also very angry because you can't seem to connect with yourself either. And so all three of these positions, you don't connect to yourself. You don't even know why you're playing them. You don't even know how you got there. And the truth of the matter, you got there as, between the age of 0 to 8 years old, whereas we learn how to behave in relationships or between the age of 0 to 8 years old, we use things, positions, way of being in order to try to get love. And so the sad part about it is that no one teaches us that, you need to make conscious loving choices for yourself, which means revealing to yourself, what is it that I want? What is it that I need? Right. And instead of making somebody wrong that you married because now, you're sick of being the rescuer, or you're sick of being the projector, or you're sick of being the villain or the victim, and you make it all about that person, it has nothing to do with that person. It has to do with you're both playing parts and you don't even know how to get out of your parts. So what I do, and it takes almost 8 weeks to get people to get back into the closeness of themselves and reveal to themselves, and really unpack why it is that we do those things. And then we need to be in accepting, happy, and whole within ourselves so that we then can attract a partner that is of the same, right? If you leave a relationship and you're still being a projector, you're still being a rescuer or a victim, you're just going to attract the same person over and over again. And people don't understand that. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll answer them as they come up. What else can I go into? So Rebecca, is there any people asking us questions or?
No, you have no questions right now, but I'm sure in the replay people will, make their comments and questions then. And so you can go back and check that.
Absolutely. And you leave questions, I'll answer them. So, I think we're explaining this, right? So I'm going to give you guys another nugget is how we decide which role we're going to play is by ask yourself, and I think I did that last week as well. Ask yourself, what do you feel that you craved as a child that you didn't get, or that you needed as a child, or that you wanted? And so by wanting that, so that's called love for you. So people think, oh, love is this, love is that. No. Love is the need that you need that you call love. So example, if somebody feels like they didn't matter, right? So if they felt they didn't matter, maybe coming from a big family, or maybe coming from being like the fourth of four kids, or however, it feels like you didn't matter. So if you feel like you didn't matter, in order to matter, you're going to be the best at school. You're going to help mom to do the dishes. You're going to make sure that bring dad's his slippers, make sure that you get along with brothers and sisters. So that is what I call a rescuer position. And what happens is you've learned that, and it gets you feeling like you matter, and it gets you feeling like they really appreciate what you're doing and that you matter. And then you go into, teenagehood, trying to get love from mattering. So you're doing what your friends are doing, you're doing everything they want, and you never stand and say, okay, that doesn't work for me, or no, I don't really want to do this. And so then you'll marry someone who in the beginning, so in the infatuation, will make you feel like you matter because you're actually in the essence of yourself. And then let's call it, 8 months, a year down the road, all of a sudden that feeling of not mattering is there. And then that's what I mean by when we create our own reality, is that we start to, look at how many ways he or she are making us feel like we don't matter. So it's a crazy, I call it, a vortex of, getting the outcome. So the biggest fear and the outcome that you don't want, you're going to get because you keep creating the same triangle over and over, and you keep having the same behaviors. And so you're going to have the same results. Right? And so go ahead. Rebecca, you have a question?
I just remember when we were covering this part in your 12-week program, which I had the opportunity of doing. And, sometimes people will go, well, what was it you didn't get enough of? And you really pushed people to be really precise about what it is, because often we go, well, I didn't feel loved, or
so if you didn't feel loved, what is love? So if you didn't feel loved, what is love? And then, what if you answered, I didn't feel loved because I didn't feel like they were there for me. Okay, so what would it feel like if they were there for you? So you really have to go and drill down to the one thing, right? So if you're saying, well, I didn't feel they were there for me. So don't put it into a negative, put it into, so if they were there for you, how would that have felt? So that's how you can own in on, what is your word and what is it, that word that you're looking for in relationships, right? Because you're looking for it from somebody else. And if you're looking for it from somebody else, there's no way you're going to get it. And let's say, even if that person is kind of giving it to you, you're going to sabotage it because you don't feel deserving of it. So it's really important for people to understand that the breakdown of a relationship also happens when you've been on that side of the triangle and you play this dance and you play this dance and you recycle, and you're all of a sudden, it's almost like what I call the light switch. It's like a switch goes off and says, I can't do this anymore. I cannot play this triad anymore. I don't even know how to be.
So if it was nobody's ever there for me,
Mm-hmm.
And now I want to become aware of how that plays out in my life, so I can shift that and be there for myself. What would be some of the things that you think that I might have to pay attention to in order to be able to be there for myself, for example?
So, for example, I know people are asking, Rebecca, can you do this? Can you do that? And you're like, oh, yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, sure. Without checking in to say, well, does Rebecca really want to be doing this? And really feeling your fear that that person that you're saying no to is you only standing in your own power, let's call it. And that the fear of standing and taking care of you is going to feel like, oh my God, it's true. No one will ever be there for me. You have to process that fear and really give yourself permission to be there for you. And so that you'll let go of the guilt of saying no. Does that make sense?
So I'm going to say no, in spite of feeling terrified that if I do, I'm going to be abandoned and no one's going to be there for me. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Right.
Okay.
So the first step, I call it like the little toe dip into being there for yourself, is really checking in and saying, I don't really want to do this. And I've been, all my life saying yes, 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 yes. And even the saddest part about it is that because that person is so used to you just saying yes and just being there and, jumping when they ask, and then you say no, they will be like, oh my God, like, what is wrong with you? Right. So oftentimes too, here we are trying to dip our toe into standing and saying, no, that doesn't work for me. And the other person is going to make you feel bad for you standing up for yourself. But you need to understand it's because they're used to having a relationship with you a certain way. And so oftentimes when we change the relationship, how it looks, the other party is not really enjoying the changes. Right.
So we might lose them.
And that's the key. That's the key. That's what's scary, right? Is that even when I have couples who come to the rebuilding group, and I have people who are thinking and leaving, or and also being separated or being left, and all that kind of stuff, is really understanding that you might end up that your relationship will be broken, and that you will not be that same person because everybody around you. So you'll lose maybe your relationship and also some friendships, because when you're used to playing a certain way and you don't play that way anymore, people who want you to continue to play the way you were playing, because that's what worked in their lives, they're not going to be able to be around you, or they're going to make you feel guilty, or they're going to try to bring you back to who they know. Right.
And so do you find the people that come to work with you, do you find that a lot of people are willing to actually take the risk and move beyond, or they forgo that and just maintain sort of playing around in that role of or blueprint role? Like how does that turn out?
Most people who are coming into the center, obviously they're coming. Some people are coming for mediation, but even in the mediation, you're right, there's always a party that has left the other party. And if they're coming to do the 12-week program, is because they want to change their lives. They want to change, how they've been doing life, and they know that they need help. They just don't know how to get there. So most people who attend the rebuilding workshop, not very many, don't want to be there, right? Because it's 12 weeks, it's one night a week. So they're present and they want to learn and they want to shift their reality, right? And what people don't understand is, we create our own fears, right? So let's say you're wanting to, so what we were saying earlier is being there for, what was it, Rebecca, you said there for another, or What was it that you wanted?
Nobody's there. For
Oh
myself.
yeah. So I wanted someone like nobody's there for me, right?
That's right.
So
I'm there for
changing-
everybody, but no one's there for me.
Right. So if I change that I'm going to be here for myself, then I change that I'm not playing in the triangle. So then I'm working from the other triangle. Now you have to actually like heal the wounds that don't allow you to just keep saying no and standing in your power, or that doesn't work for me. That's a long process. Like you just don't wake up one day and go, okay, you know what? I'm healed. Relationship is ended and I'm going to be okay. Yeah, you're going to be okay. But again, and I'm going to say it every show, if you take from that place and you end up in another relationship, you're doing it again, right? Because I call, if you're not changing your radio station or vibrating at a higher level and of consciousness and knowledge, you're going to do the same thing.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Welcome. So if anybody has any questions, please leave them and I'll answer them all. And next week is Monday, Easter Monday. We're going to be on and I'm going to talk about, going through having the kids half and half and what the holidays or any of the special holidays feels like your first year when going through a separation or a divorce.
Okay. And then are you just, is that going to get any better after the first year?
Absolutely. So it does. It does. After the first year, it does get better. But you know what? All the holidays in the first year are brutal. They're it's hard and it's not what you signed up, right? So you signed up to have your kids full time, not half time.
Okay, great. So thanks for joining us today. And if you have any questions, put them down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, then be sure to subscribe so you get notified every time a show gets broadcast. And remember, next week, we're going to be talking about sort of managing those big holidays, the family holidays and events that come up during the first year of separation and divorce. So Rebecca Happy with Diane Valiquette on The Relationship Show.
See you next week.